France is in shock. Just a year ago, Paris called the shots in Niger's uranium sector, controlling one of the world's most critical resources. For decades, France mined Niger's uranium, powering its nuclear plants, lighting its cities, and keeping its energy empire alive. Even when General Abdourahmane Tiani came to power, France still enjoyed unrestricted access to Niger's uranium wealth. It seemed untouchable. But then, everything changed. Today, France has been thrown out, completely stripped of its monopoly. And in its place, Russia. Yes, the Kremlin has stepped in and signed a deal that could reshape not just Niger, but the entire Sahel. So here's the big question. What exactly is this uranium deal between Russia and Niger? Is it better than the one France had? Will it finally benefit the people of Niger? Or is this just a new empire wearing a different mask? And most importantly, what will France do now? Will it walk away quietly? Or fight to reclaim the resource that powered its dominance for decades? Stay with us, because the answers might shock you. Just days ago, a major shift unfolded in Niamey. Russia's energy minister, Sergei Tsivilev, landed in Niger's capital for a high-stakes meeting with Mines Minister Ousmane Abarchi. But this wasn't just a diplomatic courtesy call, it was a power play. A meeting that signals something far bigger than military cooperation. Tsivilev outlined Russia's ambitions in clear terms, joint initiatives across key sectors: energy, water resources, infrastructure, agriculture. And then came the game changer. Plans to deepen military and technical cooperation, to strengthen regional stability and accelerate the creation of a united Sahel defense force. In his own words, "We see great potential for joint projects in energy, water, infrastructure, and agriculture. Russia is ready to build transport and logistics infrastructure for the Sahel Confederation, leveraging access to the sea through neighboring states." This is a bold vision. It's not just about mining uranium. It's about reshaping the economic and security architecture of West Africa, with Russia at the center. And Niger's mines minister, Ousmane Abarchi, made it clear that this visit wasn't symbolic. This signifies more than dialogue. It reflects our determination to strengthen ties based on mutual trust and build a stable future for both nations. This is a major pivot. For decades, France's presence in Niger meant domination and dependency. Now, Russia is promising something Paris never offered: partnership. But here's the big question. Will this partnership deliver real benefits for Niger, or is this just a new empire wearing a different mask? But the real game changer came during this visit, a deal that could reshape Niger's future and send shockwaves through Paris. According to reports, Russia signed a landmark memorandum of cooperation with Niger in two critical sectors: civil nuclear energy and uranium mining. This agreement wasn't just symbolic. It was formalized in a high-level meeting between Russia's energy minister Sergei Tsivilev and Niger's head of state, General Abdourahmane Tiani. Tsivilev described the accord as a foundation for cooperation built on mutual trust and shared respect. And this wasn't empty talk. The deal lays the groundwork for something Niger has never had before: real control over its resources and the ability to turn them into tangible benefits for its people. Here's what the agreement includes: checkmark training, Nigerian professionals in Russia, in energy, agriculture, health, and education. Educating Nigerian engineers in Russian institutions to build a skilled workforce for the future. Developing civil nuclear energy infrastructure to generate affordable electricity for every Nigerian citizen. Advancing nuclear medicine, bringing life-saving technology to a country long ignored by Western powers. And then Tsivilev said the words that reveal everything. Our task is not just to extract uranium, but to create a system for the peaceful atom in Niger. Think about that. For decades, France extracted uranium and shipped it to Europe while Niger remained in darkness. Russia is promising something France never delivered, turning Niger's uranium wealth into energy for its own people. But here's the question: will Russia deliver on these promises? Or is this just another empire moving in under a different flag? And how will France react now that its nuclear lifeline has slipped away? This deal with Russia isn't just big, it's historic. Because only weeks ago, Niger's military authorities did something no one thought possible. They kicked out Orano, the French uranium giant that had dominated Niger's uranium industry since the 1960s. Think about that for a moment. For more than 5 decades, France, not Niger, controlled this critical resource. Orano wasn't just any company. It's 90% owned by the French government. That means every ounce of uranium pulled from Niger's soil powered French cities, fueled French industry, and secured France's energy dominance, while Niger remained one of the poorest nations on Earth. How is that even possible? How can a foreign country thousands of miles away hold the keys to another nation's natural wealth for so long? Unfortunately, this has been Niger's reality for generations. The story began in 1957 when France discovered uranium under Niger's desert sands. Back then, Niger was still a colony. And as independence movements swept across Africa, France moved fast, launching uranium exploration even as Niger fought for its freedom. By 1960, Niger officially gained independence. But here's the bitter truth. Political independence did not mean economic sovereignty. France clung to the one thing that mattered most, uranium. And for decades, Niger paid the price. 3 years after France discovered uranium, Niger finally gained independence. But here's the irony. Freedom came with chains. For reasons lost to history, or maybe hidden in backroom deals, the leaders who fought for independence couldn't secure control over the country's most precious resource. Instead, just 8 years later, France struck again. It signed a treaty with Niger's authorities, a treaty that gave Paris exclusive rights to mine uranium. And of course, France didn't come empty-handed. It offered promises, military protection, and development aid. To a young nation struggling to stand on its feet, that must have sounded like salvation. But in reality, it was a trap. From the 1960s until just a few weeks ago, France remained in full control of Niger's uranium, a resource that powers French cities, keeps French homes warm, and sustains France's status as a nuclear superpower. And Niger left with almost nothing. Here's the most shocking part. Thanks to this absurd treaty, Orano, the French state-owned uranium giant, paid virtually no taxes to Niger, decades of mining, billions in profit, and the people of Niger stayed among the poorest on the planet. So why would Niger's leaders agree to this? Were they naive, corrupt, or simply terrified of the consequences of saying no to France? We may never know, but one thing is certain. This wasn't independence. This was economic slavery dressed up as partnership. Here's the most shocking part. In more than 5 decades of French dominance, only one Nigerian president dared to fight back. His name? Mamadou Tanja. In 2007, Tanja made a bold move that sent shivers through Paris. He signed a deal with China Nuclear International Uranium Corporation, a direct attempt to break France's monopoly and give Niger a better deal for its resources. But then, something happened. Just 3 years later, Tanja was gone, overthrown in a coup. And reports suggest that the coup wasn't random. It was financed by Orano, the same French company whose grip Tanja tried to loosen. Many believe this was orchestrated by the French government itself, a brutal warning to any leader who dared to challenge France's uranium empire. And what did Niger really get from its decades of partnership with France? Troops, French soldiers stationed on Nigerian soil, supposedly to fight terrorism. But here's the bitter truth. Despite their presence, insecurity grew worse. Entire regions were left vulnerable, and France, one of the world's most powerful militaries, did almost nothing to stop it. Fast forward to today. When General Abdourahmane Tiani seized power, he made a promise to his people. Niger will finally benefit from its uranium wealth. At first, Tiani wasn't planning to throw France out completely. His idea? Renegotiate the deal with Orano, but on terms that favored Niger. But then, in classic neo-colonial fashion, France made a move that changed everything. A move so arrogant, so paternalistic, that it pushed Tiani to cut ties for good and turn to a new partner, Russia. After the coup, France went into full panic mode. Its puppet, Mohamed Bazoum, was gone. And with Mali and Burkina Faso already cutting ties with Paris, France feared the domino effect had reached Niger. So, what did France do? Everything in its power to turn the tide. It suspended visas for Nigerian citizens. It halted international adoptions. It banned flights to Niger. And most importantly, it backed ECOWAS's plan for a military intervention to restore Bazoum by force. But France didn't stop there. It made a move that exposed just how much it feared losing its grip. It ordered Orano, the French uranium giant, to halt all uranium production and block the exploration of the Uranium mine. And here's why that's huge. The Uranium mine is a treasure trove, one of the largest uranium reserves in the world, a deposit so rich it could shift the global energy balance. This mine, along with Somer and the now depleted Cominac site, is at the heart of Niger's uranium wealth. And here's the kicker. Orano already had the license to run Uranium. Back in 2015, Niger granted Orano full rights to operate the site. But the project stalled after the 2011 Fukushima nuclear disaster, which sent uranium prices crashing. The mine sat untouched for years, a sleeping giant beneath the desert sands. But now, as uranium prices rebound and global demand skyrockets, Uranium has become the ultimate prize. And France's desperate attempt to block Niger from exploiting it shows exactly what's at stake. This is no longer just about contracts. It's about power, control, and survival. And France knows it's losing all three. When General Tiani seized power, he made a decisive move. He ordered Orano to begin operations immediately at the Uranium mine. As we said earlier, Tiani was initially ready to work with the French company under new terms that favored Niger. But then came the twist. France saw this as the perfect chance to apply pressure. In Paris's mind, Niger's new rulers were desperate for cash, and restarting Uranium was their lifeline. So France played hardball. The French government ordered Orano to do absolutely nothing. No mining, no operations. And to drive the point home, it even pulled all French staff out of Niger, leaving the project in limbo. Why? Simple. France thought it could starve Niger financially, force the generals into submission, and bring Bazoum back to power. It was a classic colonial tactic. Use control over resources as a weapon. But this time, Niger didn't blink. Instead, the military government issued a bold ultimatum. If Orano didn't restart work by June 19, 2024, its license to operate would be revoked. That warning changed everything. Because when the deadline passed and Orano failed to act, General Tiani made the move that sent shockwaves across the world. He terminated France's 50-year monopoly on Niger's uranium and opened the door for Russia. Orano probably thought the Nigerian authorities were bluffing. They didn't move a muscle. No restart, no development, nothing. Then came the shock. True to their word, Niger revoked Orano's license for the Uranium mine. And the shakeup didn't stop there. Remember the Somer mine, the one jointly owned by Orano and Niger? That's gone too. The Nigerian government has now seized full control. Just like that, a half-century of French dominance over Niger's uranium came to a crashing end. Niger's mining minister, Ousmane Abarchi, put it bluntly. As for French companies, the French state, through its head, stated that it does not recognize the current authorities of Niger. It's been over a year, and that hasn't changed. Do you think it is possible for us, the state of Niger, to allow French companies to continue extracting our natural resources? That question wasn't rhetorical. It was a declaration, a warning to Paris and to the entire West. The days of plundering Africa's wealth under the cover of diplomacy are over. And now, Russia is stepping into the void France left behind. With promises of energy, infrastructure, and security, Moscow is reshaping the game in the Sahel. But here's the ultimate question. Is this the dawn of true independence for Niger, or just a new empire rising in place of the old? There are no truer words than this. France despises Niger's military government, yet somehow believed it could still control the country's uranium. That was never going to happen. Here's the truth. Niger doesn't have the technology or manpower to fully develop its uranium on its own. That's why, after shutting the door on France, it opened a new one, to Russia. So yes, some people are asking the big question, is this really independence? Or has Russia simply taken France's place? To answer that, let's break down what's inside this game-changing deal. First, listen to what Russia's energy minister, Sergei Tsivilev, said when the agreement was signed. Our task is not to participate alone in the extraction of uranium, but also to create a system for the extraction of the Pacific atom in Niger. This includes the construction of electrical generation so that it is accessible to every inhabitant of the country, as well as cooperation in the nuclear medicine field. We also agree with the capacity of a group of specialists in this area. This statement says everything. Russia isn't just promising to mine uranium. It's pledging something France never delivered in over 5 decades of control: nuclear energy for Nigerians, electricity that reaches every citizen, infrastructure development, power generation and logistics, nuclear medicine capabilities, bringing advanced healthcare to a country long ignored by the West, checkmark training local specialists so Niger can eventually manage its own resources. On paper, this looks like more than extraction. It looks like an attempt to transfer knowledge and build capacity, something France never did. But here's the real question. Will Russia deliver on these promises? Or is this just another empire wearing a different mask? And if Russia does succeed, what will France do next? Will Paris quietly accept defeat or launch a new shadow war in Africa to reclaim what it lost? Stay with us, because this story isn't over yet. So, what does this really mean? This deal isn't just about digging uranium out of the ground. It's about building an entire system, a system designed to transform Niger's future. And at the heart of that system is electricity. Under this agreement, Russia isn't just mining uranium. It's committing to build a nuclear power plant in Niger, a facility capable of providing electricity for the entire country. Think about that. Like Mali and Burkina Faso, Niger has been trapped in an energy crisis for decades. Millions live without reliable power. Darkness has been the norm. But this deal promises something unprecedented. Light for every home, power for every city, energy for every industry. Now let's compare this to France. For more than 50 years, Paris controlled Niger's uranium. But did it ever build a single power plant for Niger? No. All France ever did was extract the uranium, ship it to Europe, and use it to power French homes, while Niger remained one of the least electrified countries in the world. Russia's approach is different, at least on paper. Not only will uranium be used for energy, but according to the Russian energy minister, it will also serve medical purposes, nuclear medicine, a field that can save lives and revolutionize healthcare in Niger. And here's the best part. This deal isn't just about infrastructure, it's about people. Russia has pledged to train Nigerian professionals in critical fields like energy, agriculture, health, and education. It has also agreed to educate Nigerian engineers in Russian institutions, building the skills needed for Niger to one day manage its own resources. Compare that to France's legacy: 5 decades of control and not a single meaningful step toward empowering Niger's workforce. This isn't just a deal, it's a bold statement. The age of exploitation is over, or so Niger hopes. But here's the question that lingers. Will Russia keep its promises, or is this just a new empire wearing a friendly mask? In other words, this deal isn't just about mining uranium. It's about transferring power through knowledge. Under this agreement, Russia will train Nigerian professionals in every aspect of uranium mining and processing. This means that, in just a few years, Niger could operate its own uranium mines and even its own nuclear facilities without relying on any foreign power. That right there is the real game changer. Because let's be honest, Orano never offered this. France never even considered it. And do you know why? Because dependency is their weapon. It's the same reason France felt so confident telling Orano to shut down uranium production after the coup. They believed Niger would be helpless. Because for decades, France made sure Niger never had the technical skills or infrastructure to survive on its own. This is how the West has weaponized technology. keeping Africa locked in a cycle of dependency. They take the raw materials, process them abroad, and send them back at a premium. And when African nations ask for processing facilities as part of the deal, the answer is always no. Why? Because an Africa that controls its own resources is an Africa the West cannot exploit. But now, for the first time in history, Niger has a deal that could break that cycle if Russia delivers on its promises. And that's the billion-dollar question. Will Russia honor this deal, or will history repeat itself under a new flag? But here's where things get interesting. Working with Russia feels different. This deal has become a powerful example of why African nations are starting to ditch the West in favor of non-Western partners. And Russia isn't new to this game. Just weeks ago, Mali launched the construction of its first ever gold refinery. And who's helping build it? Russia. Now, usually when foreign powers partner with African nations on major projects, whether it's Russia, China, or the West, the deal follows the same old script. The foreign partner takes the lion's share. Take this example. In an agreement between Congo and Russia to build an oil pipeline, Russia controls 90% of the stake, leaving Congo with just 10%. That's how most of these deals work. Africa gets the crumbs. But guess what? This uranium deal is different. Unlike France, which never allowed Niger even a fraction of real control, and unlike typical foreign agreements that strip Africa of ownership, Russia is not just taking uranium, it's promising technology transfer, training engineers, and helping Niger build the capacity to eventually manage its own resources. That is a fundamental shift, and if Russia follows through, this could be the start of something the West has always feared, an Africa that doesn't need anyone. But here's the big question. Is this the dawn of African sovereignty, or just another global power playing a longer game? And here's where things take a surprising turn. This gold refinery project in Mali, the one built in partnership with Russia, is breaking all the old rules. According to Mali's Minister of Economy and Finance, Alousseini Sano, Mali will hold a 62% stake in the enterprise named Soroma Se. The remaining shares will go to Russia's partner, Yadrin. Think about that. Mali, an African nation holding the majority stake in a major industrial project on its own soil. That's almost unheard of, and it reflects the bold vision of Colonel Assimi Goïta, a vision of true sovereignty over Mali's resources. This is the kind of deal Africa deserves, not 10% crumbs, not powerless partnerships, but real ownership. Because if it's Africa's resources, then Africa should lead. And here's the most telling part. Russia agreed. If African nations demand better terms, Russia appears willing to listen. And that alone raises the big question. Does this make Russia a better partner than the West? After decades of exploitation, empty promises, and neo-colonial control, maybe Africa is finally rewriting the script. But is this the beginning of a new era of independence, or just another power shift with a different flag? What do you think? Drop your thoughts in the comments below. And don't forget, like this video, share it, and subscribe for more deep dives into Africa's fight for true sovereignty.